fact that if you're in the work and have worked on yourself, after a certain time you will find inevitably that what made you happy before is not what makes you happy any longer. When you become a little more interior through self-observation, your hitherto forms of happiness become undermined and you begin to see that they were not real forms of happiness but having your own way. What matters is not whether you are happy or not, but whether you're at peace with yourself. What used to make you happy will not continue to make you happy. Mechanical I that belong to the idea of being happy and not necessarily the I that you ought to follow in the work. In fact, you will find they make you unhappy, because if you compare your present state of increased consciousness with your former state you will say, I used to be so happy, but since I met the work I do not feel nearly so happy. Of course, these so-called happy I belong to some of the illusions that characterize false personality. For example, someone says, he always used to be so nice to me. Whenever I wanted a new hat he used to buy me one. Whenever I was sad he took me out to dinner. Now I will leave this subject of being happy and talk about something connected closely with the change of being. Very superficial trivial people ought not to be in the work, because they will always sing this song, I used to be so happy. This is a false idea. In fact, it is an illusion about what used to be, even if he did get you a new hat and take you out to dinner. Now your happiness is, by derivation, what happens to you. This means that this is nothing to do with you but with how external life behaves towards you. You're happy when things go according to your wish and unhappy when things do not go according to your wish. If you are like most mechanical people, you are very unhappy when happenings go wrong. We all think that what happens to us should be good, even without earning it. Now the world of what happens to us is a very dangerous world to trust, because things may happen that do not make you happy at all. For this reason Mr. Ouspensky, when talking about this word happy, said that he disliked the word, that it was a word of no density of meaning when people said, all I want is to be happy. If you understand this work you will see that happiness does not depend entirely on whether things go for or against you. If that is your situation you're entirely dependent on the events of external life. This work is to make something in you independent of what happens to you. How can you think that inner peace depends on what happens to you? A machine will behave in that way, but not a man or woman who is trying to become more conscious and tries to meet all daily events, whatever may be their complexion. Therefore you see the work is about making some point in yourself more or less independent of the happenings of daily life, and the apparatus of this work and all that it teaches you about self-observation, self-remembering, and so on, has to do with making a point in you distinct from the machine that is governed by happenings. I like very much to see a person with whom things have gone a bit wrong still maintaining a feeling of the work, a person whose feeling does not depend on what happens to him or her externally but who has another center of gravity which does not respond to the ups and downs of life. Now there is a certain happiness that can take the place of mechanical happiness which depends on whether we can meet the unhappy situation and not identify. Here the quality of happiness deepens and becomes not an external thing dependent